retired soldier dad rescues a billionaire from assassins on a sinking yacht in the Pacific. Sparks fly as danger looms. Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell to catch our latest stories. You won't want to miss what's coming. The Pacific Ocean churned with restless waves under a darkening sky as Antoine Jackson, known to the few on Kilauea as Wild Wolf, maneuvered his small fishing boat through the choppy waters. The creaking wooden hull a stark contrast to the sleek warships he'd once commanded as a member of the U.S. Army Special Forces, his dark eyes scanning the horizon for signs of the storm the island elders had warned about. His broad shoulders tense under a faded tank top, the scars on his back, shrapnel wounds from a botched mission in Syria, aching with the damp air, a reminder of the injury that had ended his career 7 years ago, leaving him with a measly pension that barely covered the basics for him and his 12-year-old son, Caleb, on the remote island of Kilauea, a speck of land 200 miles west of Hawaii with a population of fewer than 50 souls, where they lived in a weathered shack by the shore, surviving on fish and the occasional supply run to the mainland. Caleb sat at the bow, his lanky frame hunched over a battered notebook, his pencil scratching as he sketched a reef shark he had spotted earlier, his voice bright despite the looming clouds. "Dad, if we catch enough today, can we trade for that diving mask I saw in Mr. Kona's store? I want to explore the coral caves. I bet there's stuff down there no one's ever seen." Antoine's heart clenched at the hope in his son's voice. The boy's love for the ocean, a bittersweet echo of his late wife, Aisha, who died of malaria when Caleb was 5, a loss that had driven Antoine to this isolated life, hoping to shield his son from the world's cruelty. But the $30 price tag on that mask might as well have been $300, and he forced a smile, his deep voice steady. "We'll see, kid. Let's focus on getting a good haul first. Storm's coming. We don't have much time." The boat rocked as a wave slapped against the side, the outboard motor sputtering with age, and Antoine adjusted the throttle, his hands moving with the precision of a man who'd once defused IEDs under enemy fire. His mind on the task at hand, cast the nets, haul the catch, get back before the weather turned. But a sudden flash of orange on the horizon caught his eye, a flickering glow against the gray, and he squinted, his instincts kicking in, the glow growing into flames. A yacht burning in the distance, black smoke billowing into the sky, the faint pop of gunfire echoing over the waves, a sound he knew too well from his years in combat, and his gut twisted with a mix of dread and duty, knowing trouble was close, too close to ignore. Caleb stood, his notebook forgotten, his eyes wide as he pointed. "Dad, look, someone's out there. That boat's on fire, and I heard shots. We gotta help." Antoine hesitated, the weight of his past pressing down. The last time he'd played hero, he'd lost half his squad and his ability to walk without a limp. But Caleb's pleading gaze, so much like Aisha's, broke through his reluctance, and he nodded, his voice firm. "Stay low, Caleb, and hold on. This might get rough." He gunned the motor, the boat lurching forward as he steered toward the burning yacht, the gunfire growing louder, sharper, the screams of men cutting through the wind as he spotted bodies in the water, security guards in black uniforms, their blood staining the ocean red, victims of a targeted hit. And then he saw her, a woman in a tattered bikini, her blonde hair plastered to her face, swimming desperately toward the shore, her strokes faltering as she fought the current. A lone survivor of whatever massacre had just unfolded. Antoine cut the engine as he neared her, the boat drifting close, and he leaned over the side, his strong arms hauling her aboard with a single pull, her body trembling as she collapsed onto the deck, her skin pale against the bright scraps of her swimsuit, her hazel eyes wild with fear as she gasped, "They're trying to kill me. Please, don't let them find me." Antoine's jaw tightened, his soldier's instincts taking over as he scanned the horizon, spotting a speedboat in the distance, its sleek black hull cutting through the waves, men in tactical gear aboard, their rifles glinting in the fading light, and he knew they were coming for her. for the woman he'd just pulled from the water. A woman whose beauty and terror marked her as someone important, someone dangerous to know. But he'd made his choice the moment he'd turned the boat toward the flames. And he wouldn't back down now, not with Caleb watching, not with Aisha's memory whispering that he was still a man who saved lives, not ended them. He covered the woman with an old tarp, his voice low and commanding. "Stay down, don't move. I'll get us out of here." You see Caleb, his hands shaking but his resolve firm, helped secure the tarp, his voice a whisper. "Who is she, Dad? Why are they after her?" Antoine didn't answer, his focus on the speedboat closing in, his mind already calculating their odds. Outgunned, outmanned, but not outsmarted. And as he restarted the engine, steering for the rocky coves of Kalaway where he could lose their pursuers, he knew this was only the beginning of a fight he hadn't asked for. A fight that would test every skill he'd honed in war. A fight that might just give him and Caleb a future he'd never dared to dream of. Antoine Jackson, known as Wild Wolf to the sparse residents of Kalaway, gunned the motor of his fishing boat, the small vessel cutting through the choppy Pacific waters as he navigated toward the rocky coves of the island, the speedboat of assassins closing in fast, their black hull a menacing shadow against the stormy gray sky, their rifles flashing as they fired warning shots that sprayed the ocean around him, each burst a reminder of the combat zones he'd left behind 7 years ago. His dark eyes narrowing with focus as he shouted over the roar of the engine. "Caleb, keep her down, we're almost there." Caleb, his 12-year-old son, crouched beside the trembling woman under the tarp, his small hands pressing against her shoulder to keep her still, his voice shaky but resolute. "Don't worry, lady. My dad's the best. He'll get us out of this. He always does." The woman, her blonde hair matted with salt water, her hazel eyes wide with terror, nodded weakly, her voice barely audible over the wind. "I'm Sophia Bennett. They want me dead because of my work. I can't let them find me. Please, you don't know what they're capable of." Antoine's jaw tightened at her words, his mind racing as he pieced together the danger they were in. Sophia Bennett, a name he vaguely recognized from news snippets on the island's only radio. A tech billionaire whose AI innovations had made headlines, now a target for reasons he didn't yet understand. But he knew the look of a hunted woman, and he'd seen enough death in Syria to know he wouldn't let it happen on his watch. Not with Caleb's safety on the line. Not with Aisha's memory urging him to be the man he'd once been. A protector, a soldier, not a broken veteran hiding from the world. The boat jolted as he veered into a narrow cove, the jagged cliffs of Kalaway rising like sentinels around them, their shadows cloaking the vessel as he cut the engine, letting the current carry them silently behind a cluster of rocks, his breath steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him, his hands gripping the helm as he listened for the speedboat, its motor growing fainter as it passed the cove, the assassins unaware of their hiding spot. A tactical move he'd learned in the Special Forces: use the terrain, outthink the enemy, survive at all costs. Sophia peeked out from the tarp, her face pale but her voice steadier now. "You lost them. How did you do that? You're not just a fisherman, are you?" Antoine didn't answer immediately, his focus on the horizon as he waited to ensure the speedboat was truly gone. And then he turned to her, his deep voice low and clipped. "I'm Antoine Jackson. Folks here call me Wild Wolf. I used to be Special Forces. Got out after a bad mission. Now I fish to keep me and my boy alive." "That's all you need to know for now." Caleb, his curiosity overriding his fear, chimed in. "Dad's a hero. He saved a whole squad once, got a medal for it, but he doesn't talk about it much, says it's in the past." Antoine shot his son a look, his expression a mix of pride and warning. "Enough. Caleb, we need to get her to the island. Figure out what's going on. She's not safe yet." He restarted the engine, guiding the boat out of the cove and toward the small dock near their shack, the storm clouds overhead beginning to unleash a light drizzle that pattered against the deck, the air thick with the scent of salt and rain as they approached Kalaway's shore, the island's sparse palms swaying in the wind, its few scattered shacks barely visible through the mist. A place so remote it had kept Antoine and Caleb hidden from the world. Until now, they reached the dock, and Antoine tied the boat with swift, practiced movements, his eyes scanning the tree line for any sign of danger. His soldier's instincts on high alert as he helped Sophia to her feet, her legs shaky but her resolve hardening as she clutched his arm. Her voice urgent. "They'll find me, they always do. I need to contact my team. I need a phone, a radio, anything." Antoine shook his head, his tone firm. "No signals out here. Closest radio's at Mr. Kona's store, half a mile inland. But we're not moving until I know it's clear. You're staying with us until I figure out who's after you and why." Sophia nodded, her gaze flickering with a mix of gratitude and desperation, and Antoine led her and Caleb up the narrow path to their shack, its weathered wooden walls sagging under years of salt and wind. The interior sparse but clean, a cot for Caleb, a mattress for Antoine, a small table cluttered with fishing gear and Caleb's sketches of marine life, a single lantern casting a warm glow as they stepped inside, the door creaking shut behind them. Sophia sank onto the cot, her hands trembling as she ran them through her hair, her voice breaking as she spoke. "I'm the CEO of Bennett Innovations. We developed an AI that can predict and counter cyber attacks. It's worth billions, but it's also a threat to some dangerous people. A group called the Obsidian Network. They've been trying to kill me for months. They hit my yacht today, killed my security team. I only got away because I was swimming when they attacked." Antoine listened, his expression unreadable, but inside, his mind was racing. The Obsidian Network, a name he'd heard whispered during his military days. A shadowy organization tied to black market tech and assassinations. The kind of enemy that didn't stop until their target was dead. And now they were on his island, threatening his son, his home, everything he'd fought to protect since Aisha's death. Caleb, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination, sat beside Sophia, his voice soft. "We'll keep you safe, Ms. Bennett. Dad's the best. He'll stop them. Right, Dad?" Antoine nodded, his hand resting on Caleb's shoulder, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. "We'll do what we have to, but we need a plan. First, we lay low. Then I'll scout the island, see if they've landed. If they're here, they won't leave without a fight." Sophia looked at him, her hazel eyes searching his, a flicker of hope breaking through her fear as she said, "You don't even know me. Why are you doing this? Risking so much for a stranger?" Antoine met her gaze, his voice quiet but firm. "Because I've seen what happens when good people don't fight back. My wife died because I couldn't save Ishwauer. I won't let that happen again. Not to you, not to anyone." The words hung in the air, a vow that bound them together in that moment. And as the rain began to pound against the shack's roof, Antoine knew the fight was coming. A fight that would test every skill he'd honed as Wild Wolf. A fight that might just change their lives forever. The rain battered the tin roof of Antoine Jackson's shack on Kilauea, the rhythmic drumming a tense backdrop as Wild Wolf, as the islanders called him, stood by the window, his dark eyes scanning the shadowy tree line through the downpour, his broad frame taut with the instincts of a soldier who'd survived ambushes in deserts far more hostile than this Pacific speck, his hands gripping a machete he'd pulled from under his mattress. Its blade dulled by years of cutting fishing lines, but still deadly in the right hands. His mind racing with the reality of their situation. Sophia Bennett, the tech billionaire sitting on Caleb's cot, was a target of the Obsidian Network, a group he knew from his special forces days as ruthless killers who'd stop at nothing to eliminate threats to their black market empire. And now they were on his island, hunting her, threatening the fragile peace he'd built for his 12-year-old son, Caleb, who sat beside Sophia, his brown eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. He clutched her hand, his voice a whisper. "Don't worry, Ms. Sophia. Dad's got this. He's the best. He'll keep us safe. He always does." Sophia, her tattered bikini now covered by one of Antoine's old flannel shirts. Her blonde hair still damp from the ocean, nodded weakly, her hazel eyes locked on Antoine's back, her voice trembling but resolute as she spoke. "I believe you, Caleb, but I need to tell you both everything. Why they're after me. What's at stake? If I don't make it off this island, the Obsidian Network will get their hands on my AI. It's called Sentinel. It can predict and neutralize cyber attacks in real time. It's a game changer for global security, but in the wrong hands, it could cripple governments, control markets. They've already killed my team. I can't let them win." Antoine turned from the window, his expression hard, but his voice steady, his years of training kicking in as he processed her words. "You're saying this AI is why they're hunting you. How many are we dealing with? What kind of firepower? Any idea who's leading them?" Sophia took a shaky breath, her hands twisting the hem of the flannel shirt as she replied, "I saw at least 5 on the speedboat, armed with assault rifles, maybe more. Their leader's a man named Victor Crane, ex-CIA. He's been trying to get Sentinel for months. He's cold, calculating. Won't stop until I'm dead or he has the codes to activate it. They're stored in a secure server in San Francisco, but I'm the only one with the decryption key." Antoine's jaw tightened, the name Victor Crane ringing a bell, whispers from his military days. A rogue operative tied to black ops and dirty deals, the kind of man who'd sell out his own mother for power. And now he was here, on Kilauea, a threat to everything Antoine held dear. His mind already mapping out a plan: defend the shack, use the island's terrain, protect Sophia and Caleb at all costs. But his thoughts were interrupted by a flicker of movement in the trees, a shadow that didn't belong. And he raised a hand, his voice a low growl. "Quiet, someone's out there. Caleb, get her under the table. Now." Caleb moved fast, his small frame pulling Sophia down as they crouched beneath the table, her breath hitching as Antoine pressed himself against the wall, his machete ready, his senses on high alert as the shadow resolved into a figure, then 2, then 3, men in tactical gear creeping toward the shack, their rifles raised, their movements silent but deliberate, hunters closing in on their prey. And Antoine knew they'd been tracked, likely by a thermal drone or a tracker on Sophia's yacht. A mistake he couldn't afford to make again. The first gunshot shattered the window, glass sprang across the floor as bullets tore through the thin walls, the deafening crack of gunfire echoing in the small space, and Antoine dropped to the ground, his training taking over as he shouted, "Stay down, I've got this." Caleb clutched Sophia's hand, his voice a terrified whisper. "He'll save us. He will. He's Wild Wolf." Sophia nodded, her eyes darting to Antoine as he crawled toward the door, his movements swift and precise, a predator in his own right as he waited for the gunfire to pause. The attackers reloading, their mistake giving him an opening, and he burst through the door, machete in hand, his body low as he sprinted toward the nearest man, a blur of motion in the rain, his blade slashing across the man's throat before he could react, blood mixing with the mud as the body slumped to the ground. 1 down, 2 to go. The second assassin turned, his rifle swinging toward Antoine. But Wild Wolf was faster, his years of hand-to-hand combat in special forces kicking in as he tackled the man, his machete driving into the assassin's chest with a sickening crunch, the rain washing away the blood as the third man fired, a bullet grazing Antoine's shoulder, the pain sharp but familiar, a reminder of Syria, of the shrapnel that had ended his career. But he didn't stop. His adrenaline surging as he rolled behind a palm tree, the assassin's bullets splintering the bark, and he waited, his breath steady, his mind clear, until the man stepped closer, searching for him in the shadows. A fatal mistake as Antoine lunged, his machete slicing through the man's leg, bringing him down with a scream, and a final blow to the neck silenced him, the rain muffling the sound as the threat was neutralized. For now, Antoine staggered back to the shack, his shoulder bleeding but his resolve unbroken, his voice hoarse as he called out, "It's clear! Come out! But stay low. There could be more. Sophia and Caleb crawled out from under the table, Sophia's eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear as she saw the blood on Antoine's arm, her voice trembling. "You're hurt. You took them out, all of them. I've never seen anything like that. You're incredible." Antoine shook his head, his hand pressing against the wound, his voice gruff. "I've had worse, just a graze. We need to move. They'll send more. We can't stay here." Caleb, his hands shaking but his voice steady, said, "Dad, you're bleeding bad. We need to fix that first. I know where the med kit is. Let me help." Antoine nodded, his heart swelling with pride at his son's bravery. And as Caleb ran to grab the kit, Sophia stepped closer, her hand resting on Antoine's uninjured arm, her touch warm against his rain-soaked skin, her voice soft. "You saved my life again. I don't know how to thank you, but I'll do whatever it takes to keep you and Caleb safe. I promise." Antoine met her gaze, the intensity in her hazel eyes stirring something in him. A flicker of connection he hadn't felt since Aisha. A spark that felt dangerous in the midst of their fight for survival, but one he couldn't ignore. And he said, "We're in this together now. Let's get patched up. Then we make a plan to get off this island. We're taking the fight to them before they take it to us." The rain had slowed to a drizzle on Kilauea, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and blood as Antoine Jackson, known as Wild Wolf, sat on the edge of his mattress in the shack, his dark eyes fixed on the crude bandage Caleb had wrapped around his shoulder. The 12-year-old's hands steady despite the tremor in his voice as he tied off the gauze, his brown eyes wide with worry. "Dad, you're gonna be okay, right? That bullet didn't go too deep. I got the bleeding to stop. Just like you taught me, but you gotta rest. Please, I don't want you to get hurt again." Antoine forced a reassuring smile, his deep voice rough but warm, his hand ruffling Caleb's hair as he fought the pain radiating from the graze. "You did good. Kid, I'm proud of you. I'll be fine. But we can't rest. Not yet. Those guys weren't the last. More will come. We need to be ready." Sophia Bennett, the tech billionaire whose life he'd saved twice in a single day, knelt beside him, her hazel eyes filled with a mix of guilt and admiration as she adjusted the flannel shirt he'd given her, her voice soft but urgent. "Antoine, you're hurt because of me. I can't let you keep risking your life like this. We need to get off this island. I have resources on the mainland, people who can help. But we need to move before the Obsidian Network sends more." Antoine shook his head, his jaw tightening as he stood, ignoring the sharp sting in his shoulder, his soldier's instincts overriding his body's protests. "We move when I say we move. I know how these guys operate. They'll have eyes on the water, maybe even a drone. We leave now. We're dead. First we need to hold this position. Then we find a way to signal for help. But right now I need to know more about this AI, Sentinel. Why it's worth killing for, what it can do in the wrong hands." Sophia nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap as she took a deep breath, her voice steadier now. "Sentinel isn't just an AI, it's a predictive defense system. It can analyze patterns in cyber attacks, predict them before they happen, and neutralize them. It's already saved companies billions by stopping ransomware. But the Obsidian Network wants it for the opposite. They could use it to cripple infrastructure, manipulate financial systems, even control governments. They've been after me since I refused to sell. Victor Crane, their leader, he's relentless. He'll burn this island to the ground to get me." Antoine's eyes darkened, the weight of her words settling over him like the storm outside. His mind flashing back to his last mission in Syria, the explosion, the screams of his squad, the shrapnel tearing through his back as he dragged a wounded teammate to safety, the failure that had cost him everything, the PTSD that still woke him in a cold sweat. And now, on this tiny island, he faced a new enemy, one that threatened not just his life, but Caleb's future. A future he'd promised Aisha he'd protect, a promise he couldn't break, no matter the cost. Caleb, his small frame tense but his resolve unwavering, spoke up. "Dad, we can't let them have it. If they get Miss Sophia's AI, they'll hurt a lot of people. We gotta stop them, like you stopped those guys out there. You're Wild Wolf. You can do anything. Antoine felt a pang in his chest at his son's faith, a faith he wasn't sure he deserved, but it fueled him, pushing back the memories of Syria as he stood taller, his voice firm. We'll stop them, Caleb, but we do this my way. I need to scout the island, see if they've landed more men. You and Sophia stay here, barricade the door. Don't open it for anyone but me, understand? Sophia reached out, her hand brushing his uninjured arm, her touch electric against his skin, her voice trembling with emotion. Be careful. Antoine, I've already lost too many people today. I can't lose you too. Not after everything you've done. Antoine met her gaze, the intensity in her hazel eyes stirring something deep within him. A warmth he hadn't felt since Aisha, a connection that felt reckless in the midst of danger but undeniable. And he nodded, his voice softer. I'll come back, I always do. He grabbed his machete and a makeshift spear he'd fashioned from a broken fishing pole, slipping out into the rain-soaked night, his movements silent as he melted into the shadows, his special forces training guiding him through the dense foliage, his senses on high alert as he tracked the perimeter of the island. The pain in his shoulder a dull throb he pushed to the back of his mind, his focus on the mission, find the enemy, assess their numbers, protect his son and the woman who had crashed into his life like a tidal wave. The jungle was alive with the sounds of the storm, dripping leaves, distant thunder, the rustle of small creatures. But Antoine's ears caught a sound that didn't belong, the low hum of a motor, and he crept toward the northern beach, his body low as he peered through the underbrush, spotting a second speedboat anchored just offshore. 4 more men in tactical gear unloading a crate, their voices a low murmur as they set up what looked like a portable radar system. A clear sign they were preparing for a longer hunt. And Antoine's gut twisted as he recognized one of them, Victor Crane, a tall, gaunt man with a shaved head and cold gray eyes, his presence confirming Sophia's fears. The Obsidian Network's leader here in person, a man who'd kill without hesitation to get what he wanted. Antoine's mind raced, his training kicking in as he calculated their odds, 4 against 1, better armed, better equipped. But he had the island, its terrain, its secrets, and he knew how to fight dirty, a skill honed in the chaos of war. But as he prepared to move, a memory hit him like a punch. The explosion in Syria, the heat of the blast, the screams of his squad as they burned, the weight of his failure crashing down, and for a moment, he froze, his breath shallow, his hands trembling as the PTSD clawed at him, threatening to drag him under. But then he heard Caleb's voice in his head. You're Wild Wolf. You can do anything. And Sophia's plea, I can't lose you too. And he forced the panic down, his grip tightening on the machete, his resolve hardening as he whispered to himself, not today, Mahe. Dahere, not here. He moved silently, circling back toward the shack, his mind mapping out a plan. Draw them in, use the jungle, take them out one by one, protect his family at all costs, because that's what Caleb and Sophia were now, his family, a reason to fight, a reason to live. And as he slipped through the shadows, the rain masking his movements, he knew this was only the beginning of the battle, a battle that would test every ounce of his strength, every skill he'd honed as Wild Wolf. A battle that might just give them all a future worth fighting for. The pre-dawn mist clung to Kalawe's jungle as Antoine Jackson, known as Wild Wolf, slipped back into the shack, his dark eyes sharp with urgency, the machete in his hand slick with rain and mud, his shoulder throbbing from the bullet graze but his focus unyielding, his deep voice a low growl as he barricaded the door with a rusted metal shelf. They've got a second team, 4 men, led by Victor Crane himself. They're setting up radar on the North Beach. We can't stay here. We need to move. Get to Mr. Kona's store. Use his radio to call for help. It's our only shot. Sophia Bennett, her hazel eyes wide with determination despite the fear etched into her pale face, adjusted the oversized flannel shirt over her tattered bikini, her voice steady as she stood. I'm with you, whatever it takes. I can run. I can fight if I have to. Just tell me what to do. Caleb, his small frame tense but his resolve mirroring his father's, grabbed a backpack from the corner, stuffing it with a flashlight, a canteen, and his notebook of ocean sketches, his voice firm despite the quiver. I can help. Dad, I know the trails. I can get us to Mr. Kona's fast, and I can work the radio. I've seen him do it 100 times. Antoine nodded, pride swelling in his chest at his son's bravery, but the weight of their situation pressed down hard. Victor Crane and the Obsidian Network wouldn't stop until Sophia was dead, her AI, Sentinel, in their hands, a weapon that could destabilize the world. And Antoine knew that staying on the island was a death sentence, their only hope lying in reaching the mainland and confronting the enemy on his terms. Using every skill he'd honed as a special forces operative to protect the family he'd found in the midst of this chaos. He handed Sophia the makeshift spear he'd crafted, his voice calm but commanding. You stay behind me. Use this if anyone gets close. Caleb, you lead the way. Stick to the trails. Keep low. We move fast and quiet. No stopping unless I say so. The trio slipped out into the fading night, the jungle alive with the drip of rainwater and the chirp of early birds, their movements silent as they followed Caleb's lead, the boy navigating the narrow paths with the ease of someone who'd grown up exploring every inch of Kalaway, his sneakers barely making a sound as he guided them through dense foliage. The half-mile trek to Mr. Kona's munch store, a gauntlet of potential ambushes. Antoine's senses on high alert as he scanned for threats, his machete ready, his mind pushing back the ghosts of Syria, the explosion, the screams, the failure that had haunted him for years, replacing them with the fierce need to protect Caleb and Sophia, a purpose that steadied his hands, sharpened his focus. They were halfway to the store when a twig snapped to their left, the sound sharp against the jungle's hum, and Antoine raised a hand, his body tensing as he whispered, "Down now." Caleb and Sophia dropped to the ground, their breaths shallow as Antoine crouched beside them, his eyes locking onto a figure moving through the trees, a lone scout, rifle slung over his shoulder, a radio crackling at his hip, likely relaying their position to Crane, and Antoine knew they couldn't let him report back. His movements swift as he circled around, using the underbrush for cover, his machete flashing in the dim light as he struck, the blade slicing through the scout's throat before he could raise the alarm, the body crumpling silently to the jungle floor. Antoine's heart pounding, but his resolve unshaken as he waved Caleb and Sophia forward. "Keep moving, we're close." They reached Mr. Kona's store just as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. The small wooden building perched on a rise overlooking the island's only dock, its walls cluttered with fishing nets and faded postcards. Kona himself, a wiry Hawaiian man in his 60s, startled awake by their arrival, his voice gruff as he rubbed sleep from his eyes. "Wild Wolf, what's going on? Who's this lady? Why's your boy look like he's seen a ghost?" Antoine didn't waste time, his voice urgent. "We need your radio. Kona, people are after her. Dangerous people. We need to call for help. Now." Kona nodded, sensing the gravity in Antoine's tone, and led them to a cluttered back room where an ancient ham radio sat on a shelf, its dials worn but functional, and Caleb stepped forward, his hands steady as he tuned the frequency, his voice crackling through the static as he sent out a distress call. "This is Kalaway Island. We need help. Armed men are here. We need rescue. Coordinates 15 degrees north, 165 degrees west. Please, anyone, respond." The radio hissed with static for a tense minute. Then a voice broke through, a Coast Guard operator 200 miles away. "Kalaway, this is Coast Guard Station Honolulu. We copy your distress call. We're dispatching a cutter, ETA 12 hours. Hold your position. Stay safe." Antoine's shoulders relaxed slightly, relief washing over him, but it was short-lived as Sophia grabbed his arm, her voice tight. 12 hours. We can't hold out that long. Crane won't wait. He'll find us. We need to take the fight to him. Get off this island. Go to San Francisco. I can access my servers. Lock Sentinel down for good. But we need to move now. Antoine nodded, his mind racing as he turned to Kona. You got a boat faster than mine? Something that can get us to the mainland? Kona scratched his chin, his eyes narrowing. Got an old speedboat. Motor's finicky, but it'll run. Fueled up. Can get you to Oahu in 6 hours if the weather holds. From there you can catch a plane. Antoine clasped Kona's shoulder, gratitude in his voice. Thanks, brother, we owe you. Keep Caleb safe until the Coast Guard gets here. I'll handle the rest. Caleb's eyes widened, his voice rising in protest. Dad, I'm coming with you. I can help. I don't want to stay behind. Antoine knelt, his hands on Caleb's shoulders, his voice firm but gentle. You've done more than enough, son. You got us help. You're the bravest kid I know, but I need you safe. I'll be back for you, I promise. Sophia stepped forward, her hand resting on Caleb's arm, her voice soft. Your dad's right, Caleb. You're a hero. We'll come back for you, I swear. Caleb nodded, tears in his eyes but his jaw set. And as Kona led him to a hidden back room, Antoine and Sophia slipped down to the dock. The speedboat waiting in the morning light, its hull battered but seaworthy. And as Antoine started the engine, Sophia beside him, her hand brushing his, he felt a surge of resolve. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ending the threat, about building a future for Caleb, for Sophia, for the man he was becoming again. Wild wolf ready to hunt. The San Francisco skyline loomed through a shroud of midnight fog on May 17, 2025, as Antoine Jackson, known as Wild Wolf, crouched in the server room of Bennett Innovations, his dark eyes blazing with a mix of fury and focus, his shoulder wound seeping blood through the bandage, his thigh burning from a fresh graze. The past 48 hours a relentless gauntlet, rescuing Sophia Bennett from a yacht massacre, fighting assassins on Kilauea, and now facing the final showdown in a city where death waited in every shadow, his machete gripped tight, the blade stained with the blood of the men he'd already killed tonight. His special forces training, the only thing keeping him upright as he guarded Sophia, the tech billionaire whose AI, Sentinel, could either save the world or end it, depending on who controlled it. Sophia's fingers flew over the keyboard, her hazel eyes reflecting the screen's glow, her voice a desperate whisper as she encrypted the decryption key. Almost there, 30 seconds. Antoine, just hold them off a little longer, please. The building shook with a sudden explosion, the blast from the lobby below sending a shockwave through the walls, the lights flickering as gunfire erupted. Closer now. The screams of Sophia's security team cut short by the Obsidian Network's assault, and Antoine knew they were out of time. Victor Crane, the cold-blooded ex-CIA operative leading the killers, had breached their defenses, his men storming the upper floors, their numbers overwhelming, at least 15 by the sound of the chaos. And Antoine's heart pounded as he braced the door with his body, his voice a growl. Finish it. Sophia, I'll give you every second I've got. The door exploded inward, the force throwing Antoine back, splinters flying as 3 assassins burst in, their rifles raised, their faces masked but their intent clear. Kill Sophia, take Sentinel, leave no witnesses, and Antoine moved on instinct, his machete slashing through the air, severing the first man's arm before he could fire. Blood spraying across the server racks as the second man shot, the bullet ripping through Antoine's side, the pain a white-hot inferno, but he didn't stop. His roar echoing as he tackled the shooter, his blade driving into the man's chest, the third assassin lunging with a knife, only to meet Antoine's fist, a brutal punch shattering his jaw, the body crumpling as Antoine staggered, his vision swimming, his body screaming, but his will unbroken. Wild Wolf refusing to fall. Sophia's voice cut through the haze, her scream a mix of triumph and terror. It's done. Sentinels locked. They can't get it, but we need to go. Now. Antoine nodded, blood dripping down his side. His breath ragged as he grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the stairwell. Roof, we end this tonight. Crane's coming. I can feel it. They burst onto the roof. The foggy San Francisco night stars wrapping around them. The city lights, a distant blur as a helicopter's roar shattered the silence, its blades slicing through the air, landing with a thud on the helipad. And there he was, Victor Crane, stepping out, his gaunt frame clad in black tactical gear, his shaved head gleaming, his cold gray eyes locking onto Sophia with a predator's hunger, a silenced pistol in his hand, his voice a chilling sneer. You've been a thorn in my side. Bennett, hand over the key, or I'll gut your hero right here, let you watch him bleed out. Antoine stepped in front of Sophia, his machete raised, blood dripping from his wounds onto the rooftop, his voice a feral growl. You want her. You go through me. I'm Wild Wolf, and I'll bury you. Crane. Crane laughed, a hollow sound, raising his pistol, but Antoine was faster, his machete flying through the air, embedding in Crane's thigh. The gun firing wild as Crane stumbled, the bullet grazing Antoine's cheek, a searing line of fire. But he charged, his body a blur of rage and pain, tackling Crane to the ground, the two men grappling in a brutal dance, fists and blood and fury. Crane's knife flashing as he slashed Antoine's arm, the pain blinding, but Antoine's training took over. His hand catching Brittany's shredder, twisting until the bone snapped, the knife clattering away as Crane screamed, his cold facade breaking, and Antoine drove his fist into Crane's throat, the blow crushing his windpipe. Crane's body convulsing as he gasped for air, his gray eyes wide with shock, the predator becoming prey. His last breath a gurgle as Antoine stood, blood-soaked and battered. Wild Wolf victorious. Sophia rushed to him, her arms wrapping around him, her voice breaking as she buried her face in his chest. You did it. You killed him. You saved me. You're bleeding so much. We need to get you help, now. Antoine held her, his body trembling but his heart steady. The city lights below, a testament to the future they'd fought for, a future for Caleb, for them. But then a new sound broke through, a second helicopter, its spotlight blinding as it descended, and Antoine tensed, ready to fight again, until he saw the Coast Guard emblem, the voice over the loudspeaker booming. This is the U.S. Coast Guard. Stand down. We've got your distress call from Kalaway. We're here to secure the area. Relief flooded Antoine, his knees buckling as he sank to the ground. Sophia holding him up, her tears mixing with the blood on his face, her voice a whisper. It's over, Antoine. We're safe. Caleb's safe. You did it. Wild Wolf. You saved us all. As medics rappelled from the helicopter, rushing to stabilize him, Antoine looked into Sophia's eyes, the pain fading as her hand squeezed his, a promise in her gaze, a promise of a future they'd build together, a future he'd earned with every scar, every fight, a future Wild Wolf had finally won. 3 months had passed since the bloody showdown on the roof of Bennett Innovations in San Francisco, and the late August sun cast a golden glow over Kalaway Island as Antoine Jackson, known as Wild Wolf, stood on the newly rebuilt dock, his dark eyes softer than they'd been in years. The scars on his shoulder and thigh faded, but still a testament to the battle he'd fought to protect Sophia Bennett and her AI Sentinel, a battle that had ended the Obsidian Network's reign of terror. Victor Crane's death, a final victory that secured a future Antoine had never dared to dream of, not just for himself, but for his 12-year-old son, Caleb, who now ran along the shore, his laughter echoing as he chased a crab with a stick, his diving mask, a gift from Sophia after her first visit back to the island, glinting in the sunlight, a symbol of the dreams he could now chase, dreams of exploring the ocean depths, dreams Antoine had fought to make real. Sophia stood beside him, her blonde hair loose and flowing in the ocean breeze, a simple white sundress replacing the tattered bikini and flannel shirt of their first meeting. her hazel eyes warm with a love that had blossomed in the aftermath of their fight for survival. Her hand resting on Antoine's arm, her touch a quiet anchor as they watched Caleb play, her voice soft. I never thought I'd find peace on this island. Not after everything, but being here with you, with Caleb. It feels like home, like we've built something real. Antoine turned to her, his heart swelling at her words. The memory of their first night back on Culaway after San Francisco flashing through his mind. The Coast Guard airlifting them to a hospital. His wounds treated while Sophia stayed by his side, her hand never leaving his. The days that followed spent in a safe house as she rebuilt her company, locking down Sentinel for good, ensuring it would only be used to protect, not destroy, and through it all, their bond had deepened. Late night talks about their pasts, shared grief over Aisha and Sophia's lost team, a mutual respect that turned to love, a love that had led them here, to this moment, a family forged in fire. Caleb ran up, his face flushed with excitement, his voice bubbling. Dad, Ms. Sophia, I found a whole school of fish by the reef. I'm gonna dive tomorrow. Maybe I'll find a new species. Name it after you. Dad, the wild wolf fish. Antoine chuckled, his deep voice warm as he ruffled Caleb's hair. You do that, kid, but you're naming one after Ms. Sophia too. She's the reason you've got that mask, the reason we're here, safe and happy. Sophia smiled, kneeling to Caleb's level, her voice gentle. I'd be honored. Caleb, and I've got a surprise for you. I talked to a marine biology program in Honolulu. They've got a spot for you next summer. All expenses paid. You'll get to study the ocean with the best equipment, learn from real scientists. Caleb's eyes widened, his arms wrapping around Sophia in a tight hug. Thank you, Ms. Sophia. That's the best thing ever. I can't wait to tell Mr. Kona. He'll be so proud. He ran off to the shack, his joy infectious, and Antoine pulled Sophia to her feet, his hands lingering on hers, his voice low. You didn't have to do that. He already loves you, you know, but you're giving him the world, and I don't know how to thank you for that. Sophia stepped closer, her arms slipping around his waist, her voice a whisper. You don't need to thank me. Antoine, you gave me my life back. You gave me a family. I was so alone before I met you, building walls to keep everyone out, but you broke through them. You showed me what it means to fight for something real, to love without fear. Antoine's throat tightened, the weight of her words settling over him like the warm sun, and he cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek, his voice rough with emotion. I thought I'd lost that, love, a family, a future. After Aisha, after Syria, I thought I was just surviving, but you changed everything. Sophia, you and Caleb, you're my world now. Their lips met in a kiss that felt like a promise, soft but fierce, the ocean whispering around them as they stood on the dock. The island that had once been a refuge from the world, now a home for the life they were building together. A life where Caleb could chase his dreams, where Sophia could lead her company with a renewed sense of purpose, where Antoine could finally be the man he'd always wanted to be, not just Wild Wolf, the soldier, but Antoine, the father, the partner, the man who loved with everything he had. A week later, they returned to San Francisco. Sophia's penthouse, a new kind of sanctuary, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of the Golden Gate Bridge, a far cry from the shack on Kilauea, but filled with the same warmth as Caleb set up his telescope on the balcony, pointing out constellations he'd learned at the Marine program, his voice bright. Dad, Ms. Sophia, look, that's Orion's belt. I'm gonna map it for my project. Maybe I'll be an astronomer too, study the stars in the sea. Sophia laughed, her arm around Antoine's waist, her voice teasing. You can be anything you want. Caleb, you've got your dad's courage and your mom's curiosity. The sky's the limit. Antoine smiled, his heart full as he watched his son, the boy who'd been his reason to keep going through the darkest years, now thriving in a world of possibilities, a world Sophia had helped create. a world they'd fought for together. And as the city lights sparkled below, he pulled Sophia closer, his voice a quiet vow. We did this. We gave him a future, and I'm gonna spend the rest of mine making sure you both know how much I love you. Sophia's eyes shimmered with tears, her smile radiant. I love you too, Antoine, always. They stood together, a family bound by love and survival, the stars above a map of the journey they'd taken. From a stormy rescue in the Pacific to a rooftop battle in San Francisco. From Kalaway's shores to a penthouse balcony, a journey that had turned Wild Wolf into a man who'd found his pack, a man who'd found his home, a man who'd found his happy ending. From a daring rescue to a rooftop showdown, Antoine saved Sophia, defeated the Obsidian Network, and found love. Thanks for listening. Please like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe with notifications on for our latest stories. Your support means the world to us.